All right, Michael Van Runkle here with HotCars.com, continuing on with the Porsche 914 project. After I posted my first video, I got a lot of positive responses from the 914 world community on YouTube and on Instagram, with people giving me advice, shops to talk to, sort of telling me what route I should take with this project. And I've sort of come to the conclusion that I want to take the engine apart, remove all the accessories, and take it to a machine shop to have them check it out, because I don't know what's going on in there. It had carbs, which the previous owner removed, so it might have been rebuilt with a performance camshaft. There's no real way to tell without getting in there. I think the project starts with removing the fan shroud, but you can see we've got a ton of stuff on here. We've got the heat exchangers and exhaust. We've got the oil spout. Oh, that was easy. We've got the distributor, the alternator, some wiring. Luckily, I get to leave the flywheel on, which is going to be a big help. But I've really never done anything like this, so I really appreciate all the advice that everyone's been giving me. This is going to be definitely a learning experience for me. Luckily, I've got this really old-timey Haynes repair manual that shows me sort of some of the steps for taking the engine apart. And I've got a ton of Ziploc bags and a Sharpie so that I can keep track of all the nuts, bolts, and fasteners. I've become something of an expert at stripping screws, stripping bolts, and nuts. So I'm going to be doing most of this with hand tools as much as possible to avoid doing that. And filming this is going to help me when it becomes time to start the reassembly process after having the engine rebuilt. But let's start with this fan shroud and see if I can get it apart. It looks like mostly Phillips head screws, which is pretty funny. But then we've got bolts, and we've got this belt, and we need to loosen the alternator. So let's get started. Where I can, I'm going to leave the nuts and bolts attached, but this alternator bracket had already broken off, which is not exactly ideal. Got to make a note of that. All right, you can see I've got this whole impeller housing removed. Took off the oil cooler, the oil filter, and its little housing unit. I think what I still need to do is remove the engine mount and the exhaust, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get this thing up in the air and get under it. Remove some of this shrouding material. Oh, it looks like it's just connected to the exhaust, actually. So that should be fine. So some things learned during this process. I'm not sure if I need to remove the impeller hub here. And look at these oil cooler seals. They're in incredibly good shape. That's pretty suspicious. Has somebody removed this recently, or was this engine rebuilt more recently than we know? It supposedly ran a year ago and it was backfiring like crazy, but it's so gunked up. Just look at how dirty everything is. It's going to be really hard to get the engine mounts off just because it's so filthy. Another detail is I think I could have removed the fan slash impeller on its own first and then done the housing all as one unit as opposed to taking it apart. But I'm kind of glad I did, because it's also pretty gross under there, and it'll be great to give that a real thorough cleaning before I reassemble all of this. For now, I'm gonna actually try and get under there and get the exhaust off without lifting this up, but I think I'll definitely have to lift it up to get the crossbar removed because it looks like it's maybe Allen keys used from underneath. Well, of course, my camera died right as I was getting it up on the lift, but here we go. I think I'm gonna be able to get into the engine mounts here. Oh, chose the right one, first try. It's not ideal because it's just spinning. All right, up next, I'm gonna try and drain the oil so that if it rocks around while driving it to the shop, at least I'm not gonna get as much gunk and dirt everywhere. I may try to even pressure wash this a little bit just in the hopes of keeping things slightly clean, even though it's pretty much a losing battle here. Well, it certainly looks like there was just water in there. If not water, some very separated oil. I gotta show you this. The oil is so goopy that it's still hanging from down in there without dripping. Whoa, gross. I've never seen anything like this, that's for sure. It's real gross. Oh, it's coming out in chunks. While it's draining, we can finally see the engine number. There we go, cleaned it off enough. It is a Type 4. And I'll have to Google that and see what it means. Don't even know if this engine's original to the car, if it was just bolted in over 50 years, but hopefully it's not in too bad shape. And probably is. So it turns out there's a second drain plug thing, and I don't understand that. So I'll be researching that, and hopefully some of you guys on the internet know what that is. Give you a view here. There's the second drain plug. Got both of them going. I don't know. It's like almost like a miniature little differential cover thing, but it's only got one bolt holding it on. Anybody got any smart ideas for me? Screwed it all back up together. It stopped dripping. It's still pretty messy, but I think I'm gonna just drop it down onto the table overnight, call it a day, load it up in the truck tomorrow, and take it to the shop. Hopefully they don't want me to clean it in their parking lot because it's still pretty gunked up, but they should have a pressure washer and I do not. Well, that's about it. A stripped VW/Porsche Type 4 engine. It's a lot smaller, it's a lot lighter. It's gonna be easy to move and it's gonna fit perfectly into the Montero tomorrow. We got the engine mounted up in the back of the Montero, strapped in on this piece of plywood to hopefully protect the truck. I'm glad I installed some Old Man Emu springs on the rear end because it definitely went up and down a lot when we loaded it in there. From what I've seen in paperwork and online, this engine probably weighs around 300 pounds, a little less with all the shrouding and auxiliary pieces removed. Up next is going to be working on the transaxles, rebuilding the carburetors, and starting on the rear suspension. But I'll be excited to learn what's going on inside the engine here. In the meantime, please, if you saw me do anything wrong or misidentify any parts, please let me know here or on 914 World. Lord knows I could use all the help I can get. Thanks for watching, and please, once again, like this video and subscribe to our channel. It makes a huge difference for us.